Kyle Baltz,
Present.
Alan Fidel, Will Brewer,
I'm here.
Brent Butler, Ronald Kavanaugh, Jerry Christie, Marcus Creasy,
Marcus is here.
Ray Dillon, Damon Helton, Jennifer James, Chris Kaufman,
Here.
Bruce Leggett, Frank Lisco, Matthew Marsh, Landon Poole, Jamie Turner, Sam Whitaker,
Here.
Robbie Beavis, Dr. Butler, Dr. Cochran,
Here.
Dr. Hackett, Dr. Latour,
Here.
Dr. Killingsworth, Dr. Miller, Dr. Toppy.
Here.
I have 6 members present.
Okay, thank you very much. Looks like we're going to be shy of a quorum, so we will have to defer any action to the next board meeting. So we'll pass on the minutes. Any guest online? If you would, identify yourself, please.
Good morning. My name is Peter McKeith. I'm the Dean of the Fay Jones School of Architecture and Design at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville.
Welcome to our meeting today. Seeing no other guests, we will move forward to the financial report.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the financial report for the month ending 9/30, overall budget used up was less than 25%, all the departments combined. Cash position. The cash position at the end of the first quarter, we finished with $40,498,244, with the department reporting a net decrease of about $800,159 compared to the July 1, 2020 balance. So that is $40,498,244 versus $41,298,403. And as expected, in terms of revenue collection, our first quarter has always been the lowest of all the quarters. So we'll see those numbers improve going into the second quarter. Administration finished with $1,176,744 cash on hand, general revenue, special revenue combined. Total resources equal $3,091,177 versus $1,904,294 in total expenditures. Plant Industries reported an ending cash balance of $14,763,394. That is general revenue, special revenue combined. Total budget used up was less than 25% in the first quarter. Resources provided equaled $17,599,256 versus total expenditures of $2.2 million. Livestock and poultry finished with an operating cash balance of $9,067,000, and that is special general revenue combined. So compared to the July 1 balance of $8,342,983, that is a net increase of $724,000. Total resources provided equaled $11.9 million versus $2.9 in total expenditures. Overall budget used up 29% of last year's actual. Forestry division. So we finished with $7.3 million in operating cash balance compared to the July 1 balance. That is a slight decrease, net decrease of about $300,000. And again, with our first quarter being the lowest of all in terms of revenue collection, we should see those numbers go up going into the second half, the second quarter of fiscal year 21. Total cash expenditures equal $5.03 million. And total budget used up was less than 25% at the end of the first quarter. Natural resources reported an ending cash balance of $42,058,000. That is general cash, other funds combined. Total resources provided equal $55,508,521 versus $6.7 million in total expenditures, with $5.3 million of the total expenditures in loans and grant disbursements in the first quarter. Board registration for foresters reported an ending cash balance of $100,000 with less than 25% of their budget used up. That board reported an ending cash balance of $600,000, a little over $600,000. Total resources provided equal $629,829 versus $22,000 in total expenditures. And we also have board registration of professional soil classifiers reported an ending cash balance of $14,930 with less than 26% of operating budget used up. And then finally, on my report, I've included a financial report, a copy of the FY fiscal year 19 assessment that concluded with no reportable finding for the department. I believe that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Comments? If not, we certainly appreciate your report.
Thank you, sir.
Next on the agenda is utilizing cross-laminated timber in construction. Mr. McKeith with us?
Yes, good morning. I have a visual presentation, as you might imagine, from an educator in architecture and design. Is it possible to share my screen?
I believe so.
All right. And before I begin, as I begin, I want to extend my thanks first to Joe Fox for extending the invitation. I want to give my gratitude for the hospitality of this group. And I want to acknowledge, besides Joe, two people in particular who are members of this group, without whose counsel I don't think I would be here today talking to you or doing just about anything that we are doing at the school in timber and wood. And that is Dr. Phil Tappy and Ray Dillon, who I know isn't in attendance today, but Dr. Tappy and his associate, Dr. Pelkey, have become good counselors and advisors and partners in what we have started to do. And I'll detail this by, again, sharing my screen and putting up a visual presentation. If someone can tell me if this is visible.
Yes, sir, you're there.
Right. Well, I'm told I have maybe no more than 15 minutes. You know, it's always dangerous to give an academic a microphone, but I will try to make the best use of your time and my time with you. Again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share with you what we have been doing at the Fay Jones School in the cause of Arkansas's forests, timberlands, and wood products industries. I will say too that for me, it's important to understand the close proximity historically, culturally, intellectually, creatively between agriculture and architecture. These are very close to the origins of who we are as people and who we are as civilizations and cultures. And the fact that I'm able to speak to you today is a great privilege. What I'd like to propose is that we as a state in many dimensions are embarked on a significant project which touches upon architecture, agriculture, it touches upon the academy, it touches upon government, it touches upon industry. In many ways, it is, I think, an example of what collaborative work can do to benefit the greater interests of the state. It begins for me with a very simple question, one of many that I actually pose to our faculty and our students and our alumni, a question of meaning and value. What does it mean to be a land-grant public university and a school of architecture and design in a state that is 60% forest? I realize that to be accurate, it's probably 57 to 58% forest, but 60% has a good substance to it. But that is the question of the day, and it is one that motivates me as I talk to any number of constituencies. I would propose that there are multiple values to the forests in general, and certainly to Arkansas's forests, its timberlands, and its wood industries. I propose that we could consider this to be a value ecology, linking together the educational value of the forests, the environmental value of the forests, technological value, economic value, and societal value. I'm going to begin perhaps in an all too academic way by at least just one quote. And this is taken from a very fine book, actually quite a popular book of history called American Canopy, Trees, Forests, and the Making of a Nation, written by Eric Rutkoff, who's on the faculty now at the University of South Florida. But Professor Rutkoff describes the forests as a uniquely American story. No other country was populated because of its trees, quite like the United States. Nowhere else has the culture been so intimately associated with wood. It is no surprise that trees would shape America more than other nations. After all, America has some of the most spectacular tree resources on the planet. Forests once covered half of the contiguous states, a staggering 950 million acres. The diverse geography across the country gives America ideal soil for almost any type of tree. And this relationship with trees has been one of the great drivers of national development. It belongs in a conversation with other forces that help to forge American identity: the endless frontier, immigration, democracy, religion, slavery and its legacy, the struggle for labor rights, the expansion of civil rights, and free market and state capitalism, to name a few. The forest, I would propose, is a comprehensive way of understanding national identity, and a comprehensive way, by extension, I also propose, of understanding Arkansas's identity. This is a map familiar, I'm sure, to many of you, the basic woody biomass coverage of the United States, county by county. And if it's fair to say that in the popular imagination, and I mean this, I say this respectfully, but also with a sense of humor, in the popular imagination, Arkansas is very often characterized, as we are all too familiar with, by either a bill or 1 billion chickens. And I'm well aware of the value of the chickens, poultry industry to Arkansas's agriculture. It's also fair to say that Arkansas possesses a superb vernacular material culture, a material culture founded on wood. And it has found expression in fantastic structures throughout the landscape of the state, which have gone overlooked and undervalued for too long. And in fact, this landscape of the state, this rural understanding of the state, this agricultural understanding of the state has gone in some sense overlooked and undervalued for far too long. As I arrived to the university in 2014, and I will admit, I'm not born in Arkansas, raised in Arkansas, educated in Arkansas, but my affection for the state stems from my affection for the university as an educator. But as I arrived to the state, I understood immediately the beauty of this landscape and also the significance of Arkansas as a forested landscape, as a forest agriculture. This connected very much with my understanding of the mission of the University of Arkansas as a public land-grant university. This book, for instance, summarizes what that mission might be and suggests that leaders and supporters in land-grant universities should become ever more fiercely land-grant in their orientation. That is to say, they should work to more vigorously uphold their community-focused missions through teaching, research, and service-oriented activities. In the words of Chancellor Steinmetz here in Fayetteville, there are 3 missions to a land-grant university. Number 1, serve the people. Number 2, serve the people. And number 3, serve the people. What does that mean for a School of Architecture and Design? A School of Architecture and Design named after one of Arkansas's native sons, one of its greatest architects, and certainly one of the nation's great architects. What does it mean for the Fay Jones School? And what can be our work in this greater cause of a land-grant public university whose mission is to serve the people? We know right now that there are pressing issues that we need to be aware of and that we can be addressing, whether we think of this as pandemic, recession, civil rights struggle, or climate change. These are all issues that we grapple with and struggle with, whatever side of the spectrum you are on. They are issues that we need to address. I propose that as a school, we try to address these in what I would call a linked ecology, in which social purpose is matched by ecological ambition, and that we are always in education working to provide a safe and just space for humanity, as well as we're really attempting to provide the means and methods for environmental health and economic development. At the Fay Jones School, as we now enter our 75th year, I have begun a series of initiatives emanating out from our central disciplines of architecture, interior design, and landscape architecture, and extending out from our research centers, our Community Design Center, our Resiliency Center, Garvin Woodland Gardens, which is an important component, as I hope many of you know, of the school in Hot Springs, along now with a new center, the Anthony Timberland Center for Design and Materials Innovation. But emanating from those core disciplines and research areas, we're now working in this circular way in timber and wood initiatives, preservation design initiatives, resiliency design initiatives, community design initiatives, health and wellness, and housing. These are issues that are important for our state, for the citizens of the state, and really engage any number of partners and allies across the state, the region, and the nation. Coming back to this very particular understanding of the state as 56 or perhaps even 60% covered in forest, this positions Arkansas in a rather remarkable way, certainly in the Southeast fiber basket and even nationally, to be positioned as a leader in forestry, in forest management, in understanding the potentials and the values of the forests, timberlands, and wood products industry. 19 million acres, as you well know, are covered in Arkansas, private and publicly owned. It is, I think, on that basis that I have proposed now over the last 5 years, maybe a new conception of Arkansas as not only the natural state, but a forest state and a sustainable state. And in this sense, at the bottom of this diagram, the university, indicated by the two towers of Old Main, can function as something of a catalytic element in wood design and innovation. And here too, I want to be very clear that our partnership and work with Dr. Tappy and Dr. Pelkey has been central to everything we believe we can do through the applied research of architecture and design. But the work that we can do in promoting the use of Arkansas's forest products leads to better buildings, better cities, more managed forests, potentially feeds back into the sawmills and lumber mills, leading to further development of engineered wood products. And all around there are jobs, jobs, and jobs. For me and for many others, this is the way in which we believe we need to work as a school to the environmental benefit of the state as well as the economic benefit of the state. So this alliance between the university in Northwest Arkansas and the greater forests of Arkansas has become quite important to our view and to our work altogether. I return back to that first question. What does it mean to be such a school and such a university in a state so significantly covered in forest? We know, as you well know, that this forest is of a variety of species. In fact, some would say 60% hardwood, 30% pine, much of it plantation pine, and 10% other species such as cypress. We know that it is a major contributor to Arkansas's own economy, upwards of $6 billion. We also know that much of that forest product or wood product is really now still in paper and pulp and very much in dimension lumber. We also know too, and this is taken directly from Dr. Pelkey's research, that there is an immense surplus that is still existing in Arkansas's forests. For every tree that we grow, every tree that we harvest, there are 2 or 3 or more trees that are actually still in excess. And so there is both an environmental issue as well as, I would say, an economic development potential, a working forest potential to understand. This is where the work that Dr. Tappy and Dr. Pelkey have been so important in terms of understanding Arkansas's value as a state in wood production, in terms of understanding the possible value that value-added processing of wood would provide to the state, and understanding how the state could benefit from even greater emphasis on forest research, on federal funding of forest research, and making use of our transportation network. Early on in my discussions with Dr. Tappy and Dr. Pelkey, it was made clear to me that one of a significant action strategy could be research and development of new wood-based economies, especially engineered wood products or modular construction systems and wood-based fuel and energy production. This is where we have begun to center the school's educational outreach in attempting to leverage, let's say, the resources of Arkansas forests with the potential for the value-added processed mass timber, which is very quickly becoming now, or returning now to the toolkit of architects, engineers, contractors, developers, builders all over the country, really all over the world. We've been able to have good and productive conversations with Governor Hutchinson and certainly with Congressman Westerman in this particular cause, and have received support in funding nature from both the governor and with assistance from the federal government, especially the U.S. Forest Service and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Our work has been first to educate the public to the virtues and values of Arkansas's forests, timberlands, and wood products. And we've done this through a series of public seminars, conferences, and symposia over the last 4 years, to the point now where we're expected, I think, really by the architects, engineers, contracting industry to provide this type of public information. We've gone further though, and we have introduced or maybe reintroduced our students, the next generation of architects and designers, to the forests of Arkansas as a resource for them to become familiar with, to know in its scientific attributes, but also to know in its more phenomenal attributes. How does a forest grow? How is it managed? What are different species like? What can be the difference of a species relative to design and construction? We've experimented with small-scale constructions, making use of cross-laminated timber, exploring the use of this material for transferable value into larger constructions out in the construction sector. We've experimented, for instance, with not just a panelized wood product, but also powderized wood product, which we've injected with a binder and then moved through our three-dimensional printer to produce these types of shell structures or networked structures as a way of making use of every single amount of wood to be taken out of a log. Our faculty have advanced Arkansas's value-added processed timber well out into the world, shown here as a small project of cross-laminated timber panels from Arkansas that our faculty designed and constructed as a playground here on Roosevelt Island in New York City, carrying literally the value of Arkansas's forests and timberlands into New York and out into world view. We're now working with the Weyerhaeuser Foundation on a very specific project with our Community Design Center to reimagine every single building type in a given city as if it were to be made of wood product, whether that's a laminated product or dimension lumber. We're reimagining the city, timberizing the city, so to speak, in order to create another level of value for Arkansas's forests and timberlands. So again, the university, in alliance with the forest, in alliance with the School of Forestry and Natural Resources, has begun, I think, very much to be an important actor, not only in the state, but now nationally in the work that we're doing. More locally, this type of work in construction form has taken the shape of a variety of designs. If you've been to Garvin Gardens recently, you've seen this, the Evans Treehouse, made of Arkansas steam bent cypress in its surround. If you've been to the campus here in Fayetteville, you may have seen, or at least heard of, the Library Annex building completed in 2018, which was initially conceived of as a steel frame building on the one hand, or as a concrete block building on the other hand. But the architects, having attended our seminars, reimagined the building to be made out of cross-laminated timber panels. And in doing so, proposed an initial cost saving to the university of $250,000. It has resulted in an eventual cost saving to the university of $1.2 million, as well as a savings in time of construction, which allowed the library to undertake the necessary shift of volumes into this building. More recently than that, the university has also really championed the use of mass timber and cross-laminated timber construction in this new residence hall, 700 beds, 200,000 square feet, entirely to be understood as a glue laminated frame and then cross-laminated timber panel floor to ceiling construction in between. This is currently the largest such construction in the United States of its kind, and it has then led to research agreements with the Forest Products Laboratory in Madison, Wisconsin, to undertake moisture sensing research as well as life cycle analysis, the first time this type of research can be done on a building of this size. The environment it provides for our students, and here we're looking into one of the student lounges lined itself with Arkansas cypress. The environment has provided an extraordinary quality of living for our students and is one of the most highly sought after residence halls on campus. This is in a sense, the alliance, I say, between the University of Arkansas and the Fay Jones School and the Arkansas forests. It has led, in a sense, to what I could think of as a proof of concept in mass timber construction, which is proven to be of great value to Walmart's consideration of mass timber construction for its new 2.8 million square foot headquarters facility in Bentonville. These are early images of what this will look like. And while it is to be sheathed in terracotta brick panels along with glass, it is very much a cross-laminated timber a floor and roof system and wall system, along with a glue laminated frame. It's really going to be the largest construction of its kind anywhere in the North America by the time it is completed. Walmart, in undertaking this consideration and in gaining knowledge from us of the value of cross-laminated timber as a production, undertook its own research and made its own outreach and was able to attract Structure-Lam, a Canadian CLT manufacturer, here to Arkansas to partner with Walmart, partner with the state, and bring into being a manufacturing facility in Conway. And here we have scenes from the opening of that not too long ago, and they are currently installing their press machines and intending to run their first test panels late this year or early spring in order to begin sending code certified panels to the Walmart site in Bentonville next summer. It is important to note, if we look at Arkansas in the United States alone, that from that plant in Conway, from Arkansas more generally, within 500 miles are over 72 million people, almost a quarter of the US population, and 16 of the 50 largest cities. This is a market of immense dimensions: housing market, cultural building market, commercial building market, and this is where, in essence, there is a expanded economic development potential for Arkansas's forests, timberlands, and wood products. And that brings me back to this diagram of the ways in which the university can function in alliance with government agencies, industry, public-private partnerships in order to create jobs and in order to sustain the overall health of Arkansas forests. The last component for the moment of all of this is to really engage the university in overall applied research across all the scales, we could say, imaginable in a single tree and a single log. And we will be doing so through this building, which is going to be entering into design at the end of this month. This is the Anthony Timberland Center for Design and Materials Innovation. It is made possible through an initial and primary gift of $7.5 million by Anthony Timberlands, John Ed Anthony, Isabel Anthony, Steve Anthony, I know known to many of you listening in. This will be an important building for us, but also an important building for the state and for the nation, and it will have international significance because the architectural partnership leading the design on this is a partnership built out of Modus Studio here in Fayetteville, working with Grafton Architects of Dublin, Ireland, who are this year's Pritzker Prize award-winning architects. That essentially means they are the best architects in the world, now working in Arkansas, now working with Arkansas-sourced timber and wood products for the design of this important building. So what does it mean, again, to be such a school, in such a university, in such a state that is a forest state? It is, as I say, a value ecology in which there's educational value, environmental value, technological value, economic value, and societal value. We are very aware of the presence of the forests in the lives of the rural communities in Southwest Arkansas, all the way to Southeast Arkansas, and the importance that the economic development through this way of thinking will have to the lives of people in those rural communities. We believe very much that architecture and design has that kind of social mission allied with economic mission and environmental mission. This is the educational value this has for our students. I leave you with this image, which I think is hopefully an optimistic image for today and the days going forward, and ask you again for thank you again for the privilege of speaking with you and relating to you my enthusiasm and my commitment to the future of Arkansas forests. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. McKeith. Any questions, comments from board members? Not hearing any. Again, we certainly appreciate your presentation. Very informative.
Well, I thank you again, and I will depart now as there is a class that is waiting for me and on campus. So thanks very much.
Have a good day. Next on our agenda, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, really good presentation. For the trees in that presentation, just too much rain this year, too much rain last year, too much rain the year before. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so we can kind of look at this a little bit closer, and hopefully you'll be able to see this. So we'll start here. So this is looking at the year so far, talking about rain, but really going to start a little bit with dry because we were having a little bit of a situation there in the Northwest, at least since June, where we had Fayetteville and Highville, which were roughly 10 inches below average, and we're starting to get into a little bit of a drought situation. So we're talking 45 to 50%, 55% of normal rainfall. Not sure where we were going to go with that, but then along came the end of October, and they really got a lot of rain up in that part of the state. And that seems to be something that we've seen here in the last couple of years, where if we've started to get a little bit of drought in the state, we get these timely rains. And in this case, a lot of rain in the Northwest, where Fayetteville picks up over 6 inches of rain, and Harrison gets almost 8 inches of rain. But at the same time in the Southwest, you'll notice that there really wasn't that much rain out of the event. And that's really our new focus area if we're talking about drought moving forward, is the Southwest, with Texarkana only coming in for October with about 1.5 inches of rain, which is almost 3.5 inches below average. Not really concerning right now because the year as a whole, very wet across the state, even Texarkana. So they're 3.5 inches below average in October, but look where they are for the year in that plus minus column, almost 20, a little over 20 inches above average. So really no concern about drought in the Southwest. Many areas, anywhere from 8 inches to more than a foot above average for the year. Very wet months. Fayetteville, when we started the month, was actually below average in rainfall for the year, but they're back in the plus category as well. Looking at this graphically, you see a whole lot of purple on the map. Purple indicating well above average rainfall. Most areas over a foot. A few spots there in the Northwest and maybe even a little bit in the Northeast, which had a little bit of drought earlier in the year. Still above average in 2020. Soil moisture, which is something that we look at when we're talking about drought. You can see a lot of green from Arkansas on east to the Carolinas, mid-Atlantic states, which indicates very wet conditions. The other area that stands out very much is out west. This has been a trend that started last year and has continued into this year. Very, very dry conditions in much of the central and southern Rockies and on west into California. Of course, we've all heard about the fires out that way. Colorado, if we're speaking on that. My family likes to go to Estes Park, so we follow that pretty closely. Two of the largest fires in Colorado history this year, and in northern Colorado and very close to the Estes Park area, and then heading west into California, a record year there as well, with over 4 million acres burned. By the way, anything, you see numbers on that map, anything over 30 and higher would be above average soil moisture, and 30 and lower would be below average soil moisture, and anything in white would be, right around average. Here's your drought. No surprise here, looking out west, just a tremendous amount of drought there. Tinderbox conditions, easily burned. Here in Arkansas, maybe a tiny bit of the Northwest is what we'll call abnormally dry, but really no drought concerns as of yet, or anywhere else in the Southeast United States where you saw the wet soil conditions. Moving forward, one of the things that we like to look at when we're talking about long-range forecasting is what's going on over the Pacific Ocean as far as water temperatures. The water temperatures here are below average for the most part, which puts us in La Nina territory. All the lines on the map would be models, or what the models think are going to happen moving forward. So we start from July, August, September of 2020 in the lower left, and we move to June, July, August of 2021 in the lower right. So predominantly La Nina and maybe climbing more toward neutral or maybe weak La Nina by the time you get into the summer of next year. Again, La Nina would be, we're looking at the equator and we're looking for cooler than normal water along the equator, which you see in that blue area there. So definitely not La Nina conditions. Climatologically, when we have La Nina, it's usually, and this is for the winter time, you're looking at above average temperatures over the southern United States. And if you have below average temperatures, they tend to be up north. This is looking at a 30-year average or going back 30 years. And as far as precipitation, it tends to be wet up north and it tends to be dry down south. Now, this is textbook La Nina situation. This works out better when you have a stronger La Nina versus a weak one. And we think this year is going to be kind of a weak to maybe even moderate La Nina. So a little better chances of this happening if this was, a much weaker situation. So as La Nina continues to strengthen, these conditions tend to bear out a little bit more than not. And of course, when you have a La Nina, the tropics seem to ramp up a lot more. Certainly the case this year, 28 named storms to this point as of November the 1st, which ties the record which we set in 2005, which was also a La Nina year. Arkansas, no stranger to these tropical systems. I would say Laura was our biggest system of the year so far. Quite a bit of rain out of that system. A lot of wind with that system, especially in the southeast half of the state. These are peak gusts with Laura back in August of 40 to 50 mile an hour plus. El Dorado came in with a 57 mile an hour gust. And we also had 8 tornadoes from north central into northeast Arkansas, which was I think that was the biggest tornado outbreak we've had with a tropical system in August in Arkansas. Never had that many. So through November 1st, remnants of 4 tropical systems affecting Arkansas: Cristobal in June, Laura in August. We had Beta in September. By the way, you get into the Greek alphabet because we ran out of letters in the regular alphabet, so we start with the Greek alphabet. So Beta in September and Delta in October, which affected us recently in southeast Arkansas. This is the models and what they think for the winter ahead. The NMME, which is the North American Multi-Model Ensemble from the Climate Prediction Center, and it follows the climatology for La Nina, which is to say that much of the southern United States is above average. If there's going to be any below average, or in this case, near average, which you see in the Northwest, it's going to be up north. And as far as precipitation, again, it follows the La Nina climatology with above average precipitation in the north and below average precipitation by the time you get to the Gulf Coast. This is what the model thinks. And this is what the Climate Prediction Center thinks. This is the official forecast going through the winter, kind of the same as what we looked at with the models and with the climatology. If we're focusing on Arkansas, probably above average temperatures overall. This is a 3-month average. For those of you looking at this graphic, that does not mean for the 3 months that we're going to have above average temperatures throughout the winter. That's not going to happen. I've lived here since the mid-90s, and we've had roller coaster temperatures here in Arkansas where it's been cold at times and warm at other times. I would say by looking at this that you're going to have cold air coming to Arkansas maybe a little less frequently than normal, but you are going to get cold at times, and the time favored for that would be January. Precipitation wise, you will have precipitation this winter, but it looks like it's going to tend to be below average. At least early on, I would say would be when we're going to see our driest period. I think maybe as we get into later winter and early spring, we pick up a little bit and we get a little bit wetter, which is a characteristic with La Nina, with wetter than normal conditions from the Ohio Valley back toward Arkansas. Drought outlook, not right now in Arkansas. And I will say this, as we get into the winter months, if you do tend to get into drought, it's a very slow process because the vegetation is going dormant and it consumes less groundwater. So the groundwater usage is down. So if we do tend to, even if it stops raining, it's not like the groundwater is going to go away very quickly. But right now, really not a lot of drought concern. One thing I wanted to point out, and I've showed this before, while we are looking for drier than normal conditions this winter with La Nina, the extremes with La Nina tend to be more heading into the winter months. So in '99, we had a tornado outbreak. December 2000, we had some ice storms in the La Nina year. February 2008, we had some long track tornadoes. In 2009, another ice storm up north. In 2011 was the busiest year of my career, where we started with major snowstorms early on, and then by the time we got into April and May, the tornadoes started spinning up. So all of that was in La Nina. And we do tend to get severe weather outbreaks more often in La Nina winters than any time else. So '99, 2008, and 2011 are very good examples of that. And it could start pretty early if the temperatures are warm enough to support it. And that could be as early as January. So looking at the forecast as a whole, drier and warmer winter is favored given La Nina conditions. Again, it's a 3-month average. There will be variability in temperature and precipitation. Historic winter events tend to happen during La Nina. So we've had anything from heavy snow and ice to tornado outbreaks. And if a drought develops, it is favored over, at this point, western and southern Arkansas. But given little usage of groundwater in the winter because the vegetation is mostly dormant, any progression of drought is going to be slow. And that's all I have. If you have any questions now, that's great. If you have a question down the road, there's my email address. It's pretty straightforward, john.lewis@noaa.gov. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, John. Any questions of John today? Seems like everybody's pretty quiet today.
Okay, thank you.
Very much, John.
Yeah.
Okay, moving down the agenda to item number 8, I'll turn it over to Secretary Ward.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate
I'm muted.
Okay, now we'll start. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that, and I do appreciate the presentations provided earlier by Dr. McKeith as well as John Lewis. Just some really good information there, and I hope everybody enjoyed those presentations. I'll be fairly quick in my remarks before I turn it over to our vision directors for some quick updates from them as well. But just kind of a broader overview for the Arkansas Department of Agriculture, of course, is since our last meeting 3 months ago, continued to deal with the coronavirus, which we all are, but certainly has impacted our operations here on just the precautions that we take. Of course, we're having this board meeting virtually, and so just do appreciate everybody's participation, but just creates challenges where normally there hasn't been, but we're working through those as best as we can. We've got personnel throughout the entire state of Arkansas across our divisions and our functions and programs. And they're dealing with those as we see the peaks and the lulls of the virus in different areas of the state and different facilities throughout the state. So just to applaud our folks for being resilient and persistent, as well as just following the guidelines on making sure that they're taken care of and taking care of their families and their friends, as well as the people that they work with and interact with on a daily basis. Aside from that, aside from the coronavirus, we are still, especially right now, today, being the day after the election, kind of watching some of those just on the impact that will have. Of course, we'll have impacts on both the state and federal level on the relationships that we have there, just in particular with the upcoming legislative session, but also our relationships with USDA and different programs that we work with on the federal level and congressional members that'll be important for all of Arkansas agriculture. Looking at today too, we did have just right now as we're preparing for the legislative session, we are in the kind of the budget hearing season, and so we're preparing our biennium budget. And so appreciate that update from our CFO Anusa Zaki, who's been spending an incredible amount of time preparing for that. Just this morning, we were at a special language committee meeting at 7:30 this morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 7:30 for a personnel committee. And then our budget hearing will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So a lot of work going into that, a lot of moving pieces to make sure the Department of Agriculture has the appropriation and the funding that it needs in that regard. Also today, just another topic that we've spent quite a bit of time on this year, but this afternoon we'll have our quarterly meeting at the Buffalo River Conservation Committee. So continue to work with them. That's something that we had some funding from that was approved by the governor and the legislature, and so we're working to get that distributed through a couple of different avenues. Some topic areas being cost share programs for agriculture, unpaved roads, tourism and tourism impacts, and water and wastewater infrastructure. Moving from there, as I mentioned, we're preparing for the legislative session. So we did submit a list of proposals to the governor, and the governor has given us the go-ahead to start working on some of those items. And so I'll just briefly mention some of those that we're working on, and that includes fairs and fair funding, feral hogs, industrial hemp, some cleanup language in particular for some of the plant industries and plant board language, just really not making things, really just modernizing some of that language and getting things up to where they should be and adopting some of those standards. So for the most part, really all of our legislative items that will be presented and proposed from the department are really more so just trying to clean up and make some of these programs operate a little bit easier and better. So we'll be and have been and will be engaging with our stakeholders that deal with these programs directly, just to make sure that we get those things the way that they should be. From there, we'll work with legislative members, legislative sponsors on potential proposals. So a lot of work there as we prepare for the legislative session to start in January. Aside from that, I did also want to mention over the last several months, partly in response to the coronavirus, but Patrick Fisk, our Livestock and Poultry Director, will probably touch on this, but has spent a considerable amount of time working on helping to approve fairs, livestock shows, fairs, agricultural events with the Department of Health. So appreciate all the work that he's put into that and his team, just helping some of these things happen this year. But we also got approved for a $10.4 million grant, meat processing grant that we've been working through over the last couple of months. And so we'll have a pretty significant impact through CARES Act funding that we've got to have distributed by the end of this calendar year. So a lot of activity on all of those fronts. If you look across the department, really trying to, I think all of us are trying to make sure that that's reflective of our state's largest industry, $21 billion economic impact. So there's always a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things going on. And so we just appreciate everybody's support, for the board's support on those activities. But I'll turn it over to the division directors to give a quick update. And I think we'll start with Patrick Fisk from Livestock and Poultry.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll give you just a quick update on what I reported in August. I talked a little bit about our 2-3 rules that we're trying to amend, the large animal and poultry disposal, carcass disposal rule, as well as our MPIP rule. Those were all went through the process and approved by the commission, as well as going through the 30-day comment period. They will be on the agenda, ALC agenda meeting for December. We just finalized the garbage feeding approval process, going through the 30-day comment period that ended Monday. So we'll be submitting that as well. As far as the grants, Mr. Secretary mentioned one of those. One of the ones I reported on in August was the poultry disposal or large animal disposal money from the CARES Act. We were awarded $50,000. that was mainly targeted towards poultry and small scale, large animal depopulations. The meat processing grant that was awarded, we went through the process. We've awarded 31 facilities throughout the state. I think the committee that we pulled together had done an excellent job in allocating that $10.4 million. And right now the process is we're getting or receiving some of those proof of payments. This is a reimbursement program. So those 31 applicants will be required to submit proof of payment between now and November 30th. And we'll have all the, should have everything paid by the end of the year. So that process is going forward now. We did apply for an additional grant, or it's called a the NADPREP. It's a USDA grant. It's a National Animal Disease Response and Preparedness and Response Program. Unlike the $50,000 that we were awarded in the CARES Act, this is going to be tailored more towards large animal and large scale events in the case of foreign animal disease, such as foreign African swine fever and foot and mouth disease. So we asked $240,000 for that. That was approved by the first leg or the first committee. And then we should know something from USDA in December, whether we'll receive that funding. And as far as the fairs go, we were assisting the health department with approving plans. We approved well over 130 events, despite having 21 fairs cancel all events. They had nothing at all, no livestock event, no fair, no carnival. 18 of those were county fairs, 3 were district fairs. And despite that, we still had around 85 livestock events or fair events throughout the state, which is still good. Attendance, of course, was down, but we were able to approve a significant amount of plans so that the kids could go ahead and show and to show what they've done for the year. Those kids worked pretty hard in preparing it. And this is their time to showcase those efforts. So we were able to do that. We also approved 48 equine and rodeo events as well. So things have been a little tricky at times, but we've got through it. And with support of industry and stakeholders, we've done very well. So other than that, that pretty much concludes my report, unless I have any questions.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. We'll go to Joe Fox next for forestry.
Well, good morning, everybody. I need to start with thanking Dr. McKeith. He is a wonderful worldwide ambassador for forestry and good forest management from Arkansas. And we're very lucky to have him in the state. So on his subject a little bit, I want to follow up and say that with our FIA numbers, that's as forest inventory and analysis, we are still way overgrowing our harvesting in Arkansas by 9 million tons annually of hardwood and 11 million tons annually of pine. That's 20 million tons of wood, and we're harvesting about 24 million tons of wood annually. That's what we did in 2018. Those numbers I just gave you are for 2019. And we continue to look at those numbers in probably 4 to 6 months. We'll have the 2020 numbers there. Following up on John Lewis's report, this is building toward the second lowest fire year in Arkansas history. Last year, 2019, was the lowest fire year we've had. This year, we've got 386 fires to date and 8,241 acres. The number of fires would be the lowest ever if that holds out for these last 2 months. The acres would be the second lowest. We'll see how it goes, but it is wet generally all over the state. That can change in a hurry with low humidity, and we're very well aware of La Nina and the havoc that can produce in the wintertime and in the spring and summer. But this is 8 wet years for us in forests of Arkansas. So statistically, we're way overdue a dry year. Following up on some other things we talked about. Excuse me, I want to go to the fires out west. We sent the Razorback crew went out west to Oregon in September. 20 members, about 15 or 16 of them from Arkansas, 5 of them from our agency, with partners with U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Indian Affairs, National Park Service, all sent people in the 20-person Razorback crew. It's a hand-line crew in Eastern Oregon, put in 2 weeks there. Great service to the citizens of Oregon. We've also had firefighters, about 4 different firefighters in either California or Wyoming. The reports of those fires are, well, amazing is about the only word I can say. And hopefully California's a little better. I think Wyoming's a little better. Maybe even Colorado's a little better right now, but the potential there is not very good. Our Hot Springs recharge area, we've added 2 tracks since we last talked, where we've now owned 1,300, as of a closing that will happen this Friday, day after tomorrow, we should own 1,371 acres, or 23% of our goal of protecting the recharge area for the hot springs. And we're proud of that, continue to work on a willing buyer, willing seller basis. COVID-19, except for large programs to schools and other groups, we're pretty well operating normally in our division, and proud of what we're accomplishing this year with COVID-19. Our priority this year, we've got several, but our big priority is training. We have a lot of new people, so we're working hard on training and being prepared, being ready for that dry year, being ready for giving technical advice to landowners. We're also working on the federally mandated update of our 2010 State Forest Action Plan. We've been working on this for more than a year. It's almost completed. It's going to go out to the commission for their comments in less than 2 weeks. And it needs to be complete by December 31. And the State Forest Action Plan will inform and advise all of our grant writing, grant applications for forestry for the next 10 years. So it's very, very important. And it's a great document. It's a roadmap for Arkansas, but it doesn't tell a landowner what you have to do. It's goals and objectives, but all on the voluntary basis. It's a good thing. Over at the Board of Registration for Foresters, there's a new executive director. It's one of our retirees, Joe Friend. We all know quite well in the forestry community. Very proud to have Joe at the helm of the Board of Registration for Foresters. That's good news. And then lastly, on what Secretary Ward was saying, we've got one idea for the legislature that I think Representative Bragg will file a bill. We want to create a scholarship path and attract high school students to a career in forestry. So if the legislature approves, we will have an appropriation to create a scholarship, 1 student a year, every year. And the intention is at Monticello, at UAM, at the School of Natural Resources and Forestry there. And we're working, virtually have complete MOU with UAM to arrive at that. So real proud of a legacy of scholarships that can keep foresters coming to us and to others in Arkansas. We have 4 fairly long-standing openings without applicants for graduate bachelor's degree foresters. It's a real need right now for foresters in the working world. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Secretary.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that report. So next we'll go to Scott Bray for Planning and Planning Board report.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good morning, everybody. I want to start by highlighting our peanut grading program. That is one program that has seen exceptional growth over the last couple of years. We've gone from 2 buying points in 2018 to this year, 4 buying points and the largest sheller plant in North America. The crop has grown. We're probably looking at about 60,000 acres of peanuts this year. We are probably about 60% through harvest and through grading. With favorable weather this week and next, it looks like we'll probably get through most of that in the month of November is what we're hoping. We have had one buying point impacted somewhat by COVID, but we've done a brief shutdown and cleaning and moved some staff around and have been able to maintain a very good level of grading services for that buying point. They have not been significantly impacted. So a big shout out to the crew up there and the staff. They've worked through, just a lot of growth real quickly. You always have growing pains in any endeavor such as this, but they've really worked through it well, I think. And we will continue to improve, but I think overall we're having a pretty good year up there. Another program I always like to, highlight. There's just really no negative side to our abandoned pesticide program. We are this week in the middle of our fall pickup schedules. We started Monday at White County, yesterday at Cleburne County, today they are in Perry County, tomorrow Pulaski County, and Friday they'll wrap it up in Faulkner County. I do have one preliminary report from Monday's pickup in White County, and they collected over 150,000 pounds of unwanted pesticides. So that is an excellent program, and we really love to highlight it when we get the chance. Moving on, dicamba, that's a controversial subject that everybody's interested in hearing about. Last week, I believe it was, EPA, well, for those who may not know, back in the summer, the Ninth Circuit Court struck down 3 labels, 3 products, basically unlabeled them. Last week, EPA relabeled 2 of the products, or 2 of the products, and I think the 3rd product is on its way to being relabeled. They made some changes to the label. They've extended the buffers and they've established some national cutoff dates. None of that significantly impacts Arkansas because we have a state rule in place that extends beyond what the label rule says. So our rule will remain in place unless, it is changed by our board. Simply stating, we still have our May 25th cutoff date. We still have our half-mile and 1-mile buffers around sensitive areas. Going forward, again, that will stay in place until a board decision is made. Moving on, I just want to state in closing that we have an excellent crew and an excellent staff over here, and there are just a couple of programs that seem to stay in the news and get a lot of attention. But I want to assure everybody that I could sit here and talk all day about the vast amount of work that's conducted through this division and the numerous programs. And just know that in the background, working very professionally and quietly, we have a crew that's providing out oversight, regulatory assistance, compliance assistance, help out to Arkansas agriculture every day. That work continues in a very professional manner. And I just want to make sure everybody realizes and understands there's just a whole lot more to Plant Industries than dicamba. Even though it is a very important issue and we put our best into it, we're so much more than that. So with that, I'll wrap it up unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Appreciate that update. And so our last report will be to turn over to Ron Benefield for the natural resources update.
All right, can you hear me? Are you hearing me, Wes? Okay, good. I'm going to share my screen. I'm an engineer. I'm not allowed to talk without some sort of visual. being up on the screen, kind of like the professor earlier. But let me see. See that. All right, are you seeing it? Some slides? All right. So yeah, like you said, I'm Ryan Benefield. I'm the Deputy Director here at the Natural Resources Division. Director Holland sends his regrets. He had to go to a funeral today and asked that I step in his place. I'm just going to highlight a few programs we have that are pretty hot right now and we're pretty excited about going forward. So, all right, the first one, and this is really timely because it's kicking off really soon, is we just started a septic tank remediation pilot program. So one of our major goals here is to deal with non-point source water quality issues. And we also do a lot of funding and deal with what we call point source or wastewater treatment plants. But the one area we haven't addressed historically yet is septic tanks. So we're able, through our federal grant program, to put together a program to start addressing septic tanks. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a program in place that'll provide some financial assistance to replace old failing septic tanks and then to promote the proper maintenance of those systems. So we're doing it as a pilot, and we're starting in some targeted watersheds. I say that always to say that these are just the first watersheds. If this is a success, we want to expand this to additional watersheds across the state, particularly ones that are seeing excess nutrients in our surface waters. But we did choose the Beaver Reservoir watershed, and I should always say, I say Beaver so people know where it is, but it's really the entire Upper White in Arkansas. So that would be below the lake all the way down to the border with Missouri. The Illinois River watershed, also in northwest Arkansas, and then we're also going to do it in the Buffalo River watershed. We selected these watersheds for a couple reasons. One, Beaver is a very important watershed. A lot of the drinking water from northwest Arkansas comes from the Beaver Reservoir. They also have the organization we're going to use in that watershed has some good experience running this similar program in Missouri. Illinois River watershed, and my next slide will talk about Illinois River. You know, we have some long-standing issues with the state of Oklahoma regarding the water quality in the Illinois. So this is just one more thing we're going to do to start reducing nutrients, continue to reduce nutrients in the Illinois. And then the Buffalo River watershed, for its importance to the state, was chosen, just its overall importance. So how we're going to do it, we're going to work with some local organizations in each of those watersheds. We've already selected the Illinois River Watershed Partnership in the Illinois, Ozark Water Watch in the Upper White or the Beaver Reservoir. And then we're working with a group that kind of putting a coalition of folks together to maybe run this program in the Buffalo River watershed. We've already approved the funding for Illinois and Ozark Water Watch. In Beaver, I'm actually meeting with them this week, and we hope that program will kick off no later than January 1, but maybe even a little quicker than that. It is a 3-year pilot, but we've put so far, we're dedicating around 1.25 million per watershed. So we've already approved that for Beaver in the Illinois, and $1 million of that each will go for actual replacement of septic tanks. The other money will go to run the program. And then we will be able to put that same amount or more into the Buffalo River watershed. The other thing I keep stressing is if this is successful, we can even put more money into it. That $1 million is really a placeholder. The money will go out as septic tanks are replaced. So how it'll work is we'll offer financial assistance based on the economic level of the household. So if you're at the median household income for the state, you're looking at about a 50-50 grant loan, zero interest loan. If you're more than double the median household income for the state, which is around mid-40s, will be the median household income. So if you're up above 88 or close to 90, you're going to get 100% zero interest loan. And if you're at half that in the mid-20s, you're looking at maybe a 90% loan with a 10%, a 90% grant with a 10% loan. So we're excited. That's going to be really timely. And like I said, we're going to make it successful in these watersheds and then extend it to other ones across the state. Next week, very timely, is the Arkansas-Oklahoma-Illinois River MOA Steering Committee meeting. It'll be a virtual meeting on November 9th. Secretary Ward sits on that steering committee on behalf of the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. So it'll be happening. There's a Zoom information, but you can email me and I can send that to you if you can't grab it off the screen here. But we'll be discussing things like the recently completed Arkansas-Oklahoma Arkansas River Compact, which takes a look at the water quality in the basin, the Oklahoma Water Quality Standards revision that's currently about to be initiated, and they're doing some stakeholdering on now. We're going to have a presentation from the professor who did the joint rivers phosphorus study that is the basis, or should be the basis, for their standards revision that they're proposing. And then we have some work groups in the steering committee that will be there. Also, anyone who wants to can sign up to give public comments at that virtual Zoom meeting. All right, so these are just some numbers because I like to highlight it because we do a lot of work that people don't realize it and the magnitude of it. But in September of this year, our commission approved 11 new or revised, meaning increased funding for projects, totaling almost $18 million in new work in September. Coming up next week, or the week after, I guess, on the 18th, we're proposing at least 8 new or revised projects. That's what it looks like now, for over $13 million in new funding for water and wastewater development projects. And then we're really proud of this number because we had a really successful year last year in approving projects. So last fiscal year, we approved almost $95 million in new water and wastewater projects to improve the water quality and the water resources of the state of Arkansas. Really proud of that group and the amount of work they're doing to get that money out the door and to get those projects in place. And that's a combination of loans and grants. So a lot of that is loans, but there is some grants based on the economic factors of the communities we're assisting. All right, our non-point source program. Also another timely presentation. You'll see why. So we have about 36 active projects right now in our non-point source program. This is a federal grant program where we give grants out to address non-point source pollution. So anything that's not coming out of a pipe, whether it's agricultural, stormwater, BMPs, or whether it's in town doing some low impact development, these kind of projects all can access these grant dollars. And that 36 projects represents about $7 million in federal funding. And then when you add the local match in, you're looking at over $12 million in work being done to address non-point source pollution in a voluntary, non-regulatory way across the state. So our current application period is open. So we'll be accepting new grant applications until the end of January. These on the right, if you're seeing the PowerPoint, are our priority watersheds. So the projects generally need to be in these watersheds to qualify for funding. There are a few exceptions to that, so talk to us if you're not in one of those watersheds. But generally, we target these watersheds for reductions, and it could be for best management practices. Well, I said either agricultural or rural, or even in town through low impact development, in-stream water quality monitoring projects, or just even outreach and education on reducing. It's all about water quality in this program. So the practices are all going to be something that will result in improving water quality for non-point sources. All right, another one, and I have just a couple more going. Just another good program that we want to highlight is our unpaved roads program. This is something that's been going on for some time, but we just picked it up under transformation, and we're really happy. And it also got a dedicated funding source through some work last year. We get $300,000 a year off of some solid waste fees collected by the Department of Environmental Quality to implement this program. We got 9 applications this year for $551,000 in total projects, and we were able to fund those 5 counties, projects in those 5 counties, and we went over $300,000, but we were able to use a little bit of money from our non-point source program to cover that $26,000, so we could get that extra Searcy County project in without having to wait another year. So really excited, but also this is open for next year right now. We'll be accepting applications until around February from counties who want to do unpaved roads projects. Now, the one thing I always stress is we can't pave a road. So if the unpaved roads program means it's addressing unpaved roads, it doesn't pave roads. But it is, if you have drainage issues or if you need to build up the road to help, and the goal of it is to help prevent runoff of sediment from our unpaved roads to improve water quality in the state. Next, I just want to mention our conservation section. We oversee and provide funding to the 75 conservation districts. They've done a great job keeping all the work going through COVID, even when their offices that they co-locate on have been closed. We're excited that last year we were able to provide over $2.5 million in funding to the conservation district. That's a combination of general revenue we get to fund operations, to some grants we applied for that we've been able to pass through to them, to the beaver eradication program, to all the funding that combined. And this doesn't include the feral hog program. That goes to the district, but I didn't include those funds in this amount. And the last thing we're really excited about is we're fully staffed. So we have our conservation section. We had some people leave right about the time of COVID, so we've operated on a really slim staff, but we're fully up and running with Bob Fowler, who's been there, but we added Ali Kumnuck and Nicholas Richardson to help form out that staff. And then just last thing I want to do is our tax credit program. Been pretty hot. You may have heard about it. We're really proud of it. We don't want it to people to get a bad taste in their mouth on the program. But this goes through our local conservation districts. It's a tax credit on water quantity savings. So the map over the right, you can kind of see back to 2016, all the projects we've done by type. Land leveling qualifies, impoundments qualify, converting from groundwater to surface water qualifies, and then water meters are the major projects that we do. But the program works, you apply for it through us. Once you get the funding approval from us, you can go ahead and take the tax credit. You have 3 years by statute to complete the project. The one thing that we're wanting to get a lot of information out, we're sending a lot of letters out on right now, is you do have 3 years to complete the project, and you do have to get that certificate of completion on the back end. So a lot of folks, for one reason or other, forgot to get the certificate of completion. We're going to do a lot better job in the future on reminding folks when that's due. But the nice thing about it is you may have completed the project 3 years ago now. You don't have to have gotten a certificate of completion at the end of 3 years. You just had to have completed the project. So if you got the project done and failed to get that certificate of completion, get your receipts together, work with the local conservation district, get that submitted, and we're off. I think Bruce signed 10 new certificate of completions yesterday. Also, we are sending out letters to anyone on our list that may have gotten a tax credit, and we never heard back from them. We don't know if they took the tax credit or not, but they're going to get a letter from us reminding them, hey, if you got the tax credit and you took it and didn't get the certificate of completion, you need to get that into us so you're going to be okay with the FNA on your taxes. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions and just appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, well, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that presentation, and that will cover our updates for the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. And so, just want to again say thank you to everything that our folks are doing, really throughout the entire state of Arkansas, representing our state's largest industry, our agriculture industry, and always a lot going on. Just appreciate everybody's hard work and dedication. Appreciate all the support there. But at any time for any of our board members or others who are joining us today, if there's ever any questions on any of our programs or anything that we can do to be of assistance, we'd always be more than happy to do that. So with that, I will turn back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Is there any board members like to update, address anything for further discussion? Hearing none, is there any other business? If not, we will defer all action until next board meeting, and I will call the meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.